Right now, your phone knows exactly how to keep you from ever feeling bored. One swipe, and there's something new. Another swipe, something louder, faster, more interesting. And yet somehow, the moment you put it down, the silence feels uncomfortable. So here's a question almost nobody asks. What happens to a brain that never gets bored anymore? And more importantly, what did the human brain become? Because it used to be bored all the time. Not 100 years ago, not even 1,000. We're going back to a time before cities, before farming, before anyone wrote anything down. When your entire world was a small group of fire and whatever existed beyond the darkness. And for a long time, scientists believed those humans were constantly busy just trying to survive. No breaks, no downtime, no boredom. That idea sounds logical. It's also wrong. When researchers started studying modern hunter-gatherer societies, they found something unexpected. People weren't working all day. In fact, most of their time wasn't spent hunting or gathering at all. It was spent sitting, resting, talking, doing nothing in particular. Hours of it. Entire afternoons where nothing urgent needed to happen. Which means something important. The human brain didn't evolve under constant stimulation. It evolved with long stretches of silence. And silence does something strange to your mind. When there's nothing external to focus on, attention turns inward. Thoughts start connecting in unusual ways. Memories replay. Questions appear out of nowhere. This is where things begin. Take tools, for example. Early humans didn't just pick up rocks and use them. At some point, someone looked at a rock and thought, what if this were different? That thought doesn't come from urgency. It comes from mental space, from sitting there long enough for your brain to start experimenting without moving your body. The same pattern shows up with decoration. Archaeologists have found objects that had no survival purpose. Pieces of stone shaped in ways that made them symmetrical. Shells carried far from where they naturally occur. Pigments collected but not immediately used. These weren't necessary. They were choices. Someone spent time on something that didn't help them eat or survive that day. That only happens when survival isn't filling every second. Now think about sound. Before structured language, before grammar, before meaning as we know it, humans were already making noise, rhythmic noise, repeated patterns. Clapping, tapping, humming. Not to communicate something specific, but because the brain naturally searches for rhythm when it has nothing else to process, over time those patterns became predictable, then recognizable, eventually meaningful. What we call music may have started as the brain entertaining itself. But the biggest shift wasn't tools or decoration or sound. It was something less visible, the ability to simulate things that aren't happening. When you're fully occupied, your brain reacts. When you're bored, your brain predicts. It starts running scenarios. What if this happens? What if that goes wrong? What if something better exists somewhere else? That ability to imagine alternatives is one of the most powerful traits humans have, and it doesn't activate when you're distracted. It activates when nothing else is demanding your attention. At some point, early humans stopped just experiencing the world and started modeling it in their heads. They could picture tomorrow before it happened. They could replay yesterday and change it. They could invent things that didn't exist yet. That shift is the foundation of planning, creativity, and eventually innovation. And it likely came from doing absolutely nothing for long periods of time. There's another side to this: social behavior. When there's no immediate task, people start talking, not about survival, but about each other. Who did what? Who can be trusted? Who shouldn't be? These conversations might sound trivial, but they serve a purpose. They build shared understanding. They create alliances. They form the invisible structure of a group. Over time, those conversations become more complex. Stories replace simple statements. Instead of saying what happened, people describe how it felt, why it mattered, what it means. And once stories exist, something else appears: identity. Not just who you are physically, but who you are in the minds of others. This is where boredom becomes something more than just a feeling. It becomes a trigger for reflection, for imagination, for connection. Fast forward to now. Your environment has changed completely. Instead of long empty stretches, every gap is filled instantly. Waiting in line? Phone. Sitting alone? Phone. Even a few seconds of silence feels like something to fix. But your brain hasn't changed nearly as fast as your environment has. The same systems that once used boredom to generate ideas are still there. They just don't get used as often because they only activate under one condition. Nothing else is happening. Neuroscience has a name for this state. It's called the default mode network. It's the system that turns on when you're not focused on the outside world, and is responsible for some of the most important functions your brain has: self-awareness, memory integration, creative thinking, understanding other people. But here's the catch. It doesn't work when you're constantly stimulated. It needs space. It needs time. It needs boredom. When you remove that completely, something else happens instead. Your brain stays in a reactive state, always responding, never generating, always consuming, never creating. Over time, that changes how you think. Not dramatically all at once, but gradually. Quietly, you become less comfortable with stillness, less patient with slow processes, less likely to follow a thought all the way through without interruption. And the irony is, the more you avoid boredom, the more restless you start to feel. Because boredom was never the problem. It was the mechanism. Thousands of years ago, someone sat in the same silence you try to escape today. No notifications, no distractions, just time. And out of that time came ideas, patterns, stories, questions that didn't have answers yet. That same process still exists. Every time you resist the urge to fill a quiet moment, every time you let your mind wander without directing it, you're activating something ancient, something that shaped everything humans eventually built. So the next time you feel bored, notice what your instinct is: to reach for something, to eliminate the feeling as fast as possible, and then don't, just for a moment. Because that space you're trying to close might be the exact space your brain has been waiting for. Not to distract you, not to entertain you, but to actually think